On today's episode of Garage Noise, I'm going to show you how to do a DIY chip repair on your vehicle. Let's get started. So if you have a vehicle, chances are you have some kind of stone chip in your paint. And if it's bothering you, I'm going to show you today how to do a do-it-yourself repair that's going to look seamless. First thing we need to do is isolate the chip. So this is the stone chip we're going to take care of today. Zoom in here so you can see it. The first thing we need to do is we need to wet sand this area. We're going to wet sand this area smooth. We're going to use some 2000 grit wet sanding paper and sand this entire area a little bit out, a little bit far away from the chip. There's a few other chips here, but right now we're just going to focus on these chips right here. Okay, I'm going to make this quick. You don't need a lot of fancy tools with this. You're just going to need a few different items. One thing is you're going to need a piece of 2000 grit wet sanding paper, a little bit of soap and water. Okay, so we're going to spray a little water on here. It's got a little soap in it, and we're going to wet sand this. We're just going to hold our hand flat and just give it a good wet sand. This is for adhesion of the paint, the new paint that we're going to put on here, and the clear coat. So you are going to need a few things. You'll need a piece of 2000 grit sandpaper, some water, clear coat, and some touch-up paint for the color. And then a little paint dauber, which I'll show you what that is. Okay, now that we have it wet sanded, let's wipe it clean and dry. Make sure it's dry. Okay, this is what they call a paint dauber. It's just got a little cotton ball on the end of it. We're going to use this to touch up the color on this stone chip. Now, you can use whatever you have handy that you can touch up with if you have a little brush or something of that nature. Whatever you can use, but you want to be pretty specific with it. It has to be something that you can really touch up very specifically. And what we're wanting to do is we want to touch up inside the chip, but we don't want to go outside of it as much as possible. So fill it up with paint, put 2 coats on, so touch it up once and then touch it up a second time after you've let it dry for 10 minutes. Now, I lost the footage on touching this up, but I wanted to show you what I used and how talk about how I went about doing it before we went on to the next step. So this is already touched up. Let's go on to the next step. Okay, so here's what it looks like after we've touched it up. It doesn't look really good now, but it's basically we're just getting the color on there, and then we're going to do the clear coat. Okay, now that the paint has dried, I've mixed up some 2K urethane clear coat. That is catalyzed clear coat. I will leave the links in the description. And I'm using a fresh dauber. The chip, we're just going to touch up the chip. It will run if you put too much on it, but we can always put another coat. So I'm going to touch it up once, let it set, and then put on another coat. Okay, I'm going to let this dry for about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to apply another coat. Okay, now that we've touched this up, we've put a coat of clear coat on. I'm going to put one more coat of clear on it. It doesn't take much. Now I'm going to let this dry overnight. You want to let it dry overnight, and then we will wet sand it. Okay, I went ahead and wet sanded the clear coat out. It's been sitting overnight. We let it cure. we went through the process. We wet sanded the chipped area, we touched it up with paint, then we touched it up with clear coat. We let it sit overnight, and now I wet sanded it with 2000 grit sandpaper until, you want to wet sand it until it's flat, okay? Then I went ahead and polished it with the orbital polisher using 3M Perfected EX compound. This is a light duty compound, easy to sand out 2000 grit scratches. You don't want anything real coarse. You want a fine compound. So I buffed it out with this compound, and this is the results. I'm sorry I missed showing you how I did that, but my SD card messed up and it didn't capture the footage. And I can't go back and redo it. So anyway, this is the finished product. You can see the chip is gone. You can barely see where it was, right there and right there. I don't even know if it'll show up on camera. I can barely see it here. But we could also put some wax over this, and that would give it a nice higher gloss and make it even less noticeable. So this is a way that you can repair a chip at home. I'll leave all the links to the products in the description below, to the clear coat, to the compound, and those type of things. Now you will have to get your own paint code and touch-up paint, and you can get that at the dealer or any automotive store, but you can do this at home and it looks really, really nice. It's not gonna be 100%, but I would say it's 99%, and it's gonna make it look much, much better. So thanks for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Like and subscribe if you haven't liked and subscribed, and we'll see you next time.